For this episode, I was hoping to review Bloodlust Shadowhunter, a vampire RPG I'd been linked to in December. Unfortunately, my laptop lacks certain components required for the game to run, and tracking them down is harder than I expected. So if any members of the Bloodlust development team are watching this, I'm gonna have to ask you to be just a little more patient. Sorry guys. So until I can get that RPG working, let's take a look at another one, specifically Exit Fate. This is exactly my kind of game. A very mature, very political role-playing game with a story that revolves around the conflict between the Kingdom of Kurgard and the idealistic but inherently corrupt State Union, both trying to gain control over a neutral zone called Helman Island. The main character is a Kurgardian colonel named Daniel Vineyard, who's sent to help with the invasion but ends up being betrayed by his allies and forced to find refuge in the State Union. As time goes on, Daniel starts putting together a special tasks group known as the Elysium Army, with the intention of putting an end to the fighting that's destroying the world and getting to the bottom of the conspiracy that framed him. What makes Daniel such an endearing character is that, despite being much older and wiser than your average RPG protagonist, he's one of the nicest and most idealistic characters I've ever seen in any work of fantastic fiction. What I love about Daniel is that he's never portrayed as foolish or ridiculous. He remains someone who wants to be honest and uncorrupted in a world where everyone is betraying each other for power. This gives him a charm that a lot of heroes just don't have. In an age where fantasy stories have to feature annoying, brooding, unlikable morons as their heroes to be taken seriously, it's so good to play an RPG that makes you feel like a good guy. Daniel's not the only great character though. Since you're building up the Elysium Army, it's your goal to recruit 75 different characters to serve as everything from soldiers and tacticians to shopkeepers and researchers under your banner. While a game with this many characters does struggle to give them all development, they at least all have a unique personality. Effort has been put into making each one something special. Like the pompous magician Mai, or Derek the Australian skeleton, the big bearded badass tactician Bast, and my personal favourite, the mad scientist Deke who operates the castle teleporter. The way in which these characters interact with each other is truly wonderful and surprisingly original. This is not your typical JRPG dynamic where everyone ums and ahs about teenage crushes rather than worry about the fate of the world. Characters are making big decisions from the get-go. They talk about things, they seek help, they consult doctors and experts and strategists. You actually feel like you're controlling an army of mature, confident and responsible badasses, rather than a gaggle of annoying skinny anime tweens. It's just great to see this kind of thing in an RPG. Exit Fate is also a strategy game as much as it is an RPG. After recruiting your units, you have to sort them into regiments to be sent out into battle against the armies of other nations. Everyone contributes a different skill to these units, be it making them stronger, allowing them to heal fallen troops, increasing the strength of their counterattacks. It's all very strategic, but it's presented with such a simple, easy to navigate user interface that makes what could have been a frustrating experience into one of the most fun parts of the game. That being said, even if you are a great strategist, some of the later battles are just ridiculously unfair. When you're not travelling the world looking for new characters to join your army, or sending those brave men and women into battle, you're taking a couple of soldiers with Daniel to carry out smaller missions. These can be anything from breaking people out of prison, to solving murder mysteries within circles of druids, to trying to locate the leader of a rebel base, to discovering the source of elemental monsters attacking a temple. There are loads of primary and secondary quests, and they all do an amazing job at building the lore and making the game feel even bigger. And this really is a big game. By the time the credits roll, you'll have easily spent 40, maybe 50 hours invested in it. The combat of Exit Fate is turn-based, but fortunately it does away with the active time battle system of most RPG Maker games. It instead goes for a more traditional system, ditching the gauges completely and allowing you to see the turn order at the bottom of the screen. This helps you to plan your next moves in advance better. It also features a unique mana system, where MP regenerates throughout the course of battle. It's made all the better by the hand-drawn character sprites, which are gorgeous to look at and feature all manner of weird and wonderful weapon designs. If I had to find fault with it, I'd say that Exit Fate doesn't have the fastest of paces. It has a very slow start, and the plot's mysteries are unravelled extremely slowly. It always feeds you just enough to answer maybe one or two of your questions, but then another 3 are raised, so you keep playing to find more answers, but then more questions are raised, and the cycle repeats. It really does take until you get all the way to the end of the game to finally work out everything that's going on. Now, don't get me wrong. The plot is very good, and the revelations are great. It's just that this is a game that requires a commitment, because there are lots of nods towards certain characters having mysterious pasts, implications that Daniel might not be who we think he is, or even whom he thinks he is, as well as foreshadowing by the bucket load. Long story short, if you stop paying attention to it for even a few minutes, you could find yourself completely lost. This is not a game for the instant gratification kind of gamer. It's a game for all of us who've been crying out for a big, meaty single-player RPG that will treat us all like the incredible geniuses that we are. But putting aside those issues and the fact that none of the music is original, with tracks being borrowed from games like Chrono Cross and Suikoden, Exit Fate is a really great RPG. It's fun, it's mature, it's got a great combat system, and the plot is wonderful. Not to mention, it has a really original art style. I'd say you easily get your money's worth in this game, and then some. But it's absolutely free. So really, you have no excuse not to download it. If you like RPGs, you really don't have a reason not to get this game. It's just that simple.